Okay folks, welcome back to Angler Corner. In this video today, or should I say in this mini series that I'm going to be doing on the channel, I'm going to be teaching you lot how to method feed the fish. I'm going to break it down to the very basics because the method feeder is one of my favourite ways to fish. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Now I know there's a lot of people who watch this channel who are already very experienced anglers and know what they are doing. However, this is for the new people that watch this, and maybe if you are a bit experienced, there might be one little tip in this that you think, yeah, I can use that and I can implement that into my method feeder fishing. So who knows what you're going to learn in this new series. There will be a new video out every week with a different section. I think there's going to be about 6 episodes in this miniature series. So if you do enjoy it, please subscribe. Like I said, these are kind of like free lessons almost for you. If you lot could just subscribe, that helps me out massively. It really does. Get subscribed to the channel. Post your comments down below as well. Basically tell me if it helped you or if you learned anything new, because that's what I want to do on this channel. And share this video around with anyone that you know is new getting into method feeder fishing, because it is a cracking way to fish. It truly is. And let's get into this video. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the most important thing that you're going to need for method feeder fishing, and that is your rod and your reel. So then, when it comes to a rod and a reel, what should you get? Where should you start? Now I'm going to kick it off first with brands of rod and reel, because there is so many different, method feeder rods out there. It's kind of scary when you're first getting into fishing, because you'll go to the tackle shop and you'll see lots and lots. I'm going to put it out there, you don't need to spend a ridiculous amount of money, right? You literally don't. It's one of them things that you don't have to do. I don't get why people will spend ridiculous money. And if you're new getting into it, there's absolutely no need to spend crazy money. In my hands, I have a Nitro NTR feeder rod, and I also have the NTR reel. I think the rods are about 20 something pound, and I also believe the reels are 20 something pound as well. And I have landed so many big fish on this and caught loads on this. It's absolutely solid. It's a brilliant rod and it won't let you down for the job. This would be my recommendation. If you can find something cheaper, then definitely go for it. One thing I will say is stay away from very cheap reels, so like the 10, 15 pound reels. I've been there, I've done it, they're not very good. The NTR Nitro one for the price is probably one of the best ones you can get. And also Shimano do a cheap reel as well. So if you are going to get budget reels, that's what I'd recommend, because I will be giving you lots of recommendations on stuff what to get in this episode. But yeah, definitely get NTR rod and reel. So the next thing I'm going to tell you is once you've got your rod and your reel, once you've bought it, the first thing you're going to want to do, normally they come in 2 sections, and well, they'll come in 3 sections. You'll have your quiver tip, this section, and I like to call it the main section. All you do, just make sure all the eyes are aligned up on this, put it together, and then bring your line through all the eyes of the rod. And then I'm going to tell you what size feeder rod I would recommend, because there is some good options out there to make your life a bit easier. Okay, so we've now got the line through all the guides, and make sure you do get your line going through all the guides. You don't want to miss a guide. Trust me, I've been there and done that. And also another thing is make sure you don't get your line wrapped around the rod as well. So make sure it's just running through all the guides as neat as possible. And while we're on the topic of line, there is so many different breaking strains and choices. You've got £5, £6, £8, £10. Now for me, with method feeder fishing, more and more commercials have got big fish in, right? And you don't want to get caught off guard when it comes to method feeder fishing. So what I'd recommend you go for is £8 breaking strain. You could step it up to £10 if you want, just to give yourself a real safety cushion. but £8 is a good all-rounder. That way then you can have a £7 hook length and you're absolutely brilliant. Now the reason that we always go lighter in the hook length is in case you get snagged or a big fish gets you, it's so you can get snapped off and not lose your feeder, or even have to like cut the line or pull for a break or something like that. So always make sure your main line is higher than your hook length. So like I said, this is £8 main line, and then you want to make sure your hook length is £7. But yeah, I just thought that'd be worth mentioning. I'm gonna now show you the terminal tackle and how we tie on a method feeder, because it is so simple and so easy to do. And then what I'm going to get into is what size rod I would recommend for the job, and what size reel as well, because sometimes that can have a big effect in how your fishing goes. I'm going to talk through the bits of terminal tackle you need, but a few little bonus things I'm going to chuck in. Always make sure you have a nice sort of like terminal tackle box where you can keep your method feeders and you can keep your molds and your little quick change beads and everything, because all the little fiddly bits, it's nice to have all in one place. And that for me is very important, because then you're not losing anything and you know where everything is. I would honestly recommend this Corum box. I forget the exact name of it now. I think it's something like the fully loaded Corum accessory box. So if you type that in on Google, I'll try and put a picture on the screen as well if I remember, then definitely get that. And I like that because it comes with the scissors and everything, and it also comes with a separate little box to put all the fiddly little components. So speaking of components, the components you're going to need is a method feeder, of course. Then you're going to need a little quick change bead, and then also you're going to need a method feeder mold. Now most method feeders these days you can actually buy the sets, which is really good because it saves you having to get the terminal tackle, and you can just think, right, I'm going to buy that set, dren and do one with the feeder, the mold and the quick change bead thing. Now they're alright, but I've had problems with them in the past feeding the line through. I have here today with me a Corum method feeder, and I find these a lot easier to thread sort of down the line. However, the only problem is with these, they don't come with the quick change beads. Now quick change beads you can get all sorts, they come in different shapes, sizes and everything. I like these quick change beads, and I believe these are the Preston ones, and the reason I like these is because they have a little notch there, and that notch just fits inside it. It's not a fixed rig by any means, it just slots inside and makes everything look neat, and I'll show you how free running it actually is. And for those that are new into fishing, what I mean by free running is when the method feeder can slide up and down the line, and a lot of fisheries these days don't allow fixed rigs. It's just one of them things. So I've got my main line, and all we're going to do is pass the line straight through the middle of the method feeder. Some method feeders may be different. You might have like a little rubber sleeve that you might have to pull off first, but certainly with these Corum ones you don't, you just literally pass it straight through. It's a pretty simple job, but as I said, these are brilliant. These, I've had no problems with them. And then there you go, I've passed it through. Like I mentioned with the free running, it's essentially when that feeder can go up and down the line. So the feeder's on the line now, and all we're going to do now is take our little quick change bead, which is this, and we're going to pull this little top bit off. Now this is very important that you don't lose these, so I'm just going to have to pull this apart. Now make sure you put this end nice and safe. This is like the bottom bit of the quick change bead, and I'm just going to put it on my little hook length box. Now certainly with your quick change beads, they only have one way of going on. Make sure you put them on correctly. That is very important. And with these ones, I'm going to be putting it on so that this slides over the main line first, and then that will just run down to the method feeder. Again, pretty simple stuff, folks, and I'll do a little close-up of what this rig should look like after we've tied it up. So that goes on there, and then we're going to take this other little section, so this bit here, and normally they'll have like a little hole in between it, and what you're going to do, you're going to post that through the line and do your favourite knot. Now I know this is a bit of a beginner tutorial, but I'm hoping you've learnt knots. If you haven't, knots is something that I will cover eventually, but this is sort of, you know, I'm assuming you already know the knots. the knot I use is a half blood knot. If you don't know, there's plenty of videos out there on YouTube on how to tie different knots and that. I use an half blood knot. Now you can use a Palomar knot or any knot. I just prefer the half blood knot. So all we're going to do is go around. I generally do 6 turns with an half blood knot, and then when it creates the new loop, I then pass it back through that. But again, I'm not going to go into too much detail on the knots, folks, because I'm assuming that you already know the knot. Right, so I've cinched it down. I'll try and get you a lot of close up. There you go. Cinched it down with half blood knot, and then we're going to take a scissors and we're going to cut it, and there we go. Make sure as well you dispose of these. Just put them back in your tackle box, and then have a bit of a clear out when you get home. Do not chuck it on the floor. Please don't litter, people. Just put it away. It don't take much. Just literally put it in your tackle box, away safe and sound. And then that way, we're not leaving litter everywhere. Right, so this is what we've got. So we've got the method feeder there. We've got his little bead there, his little quick change bead. And again, that'll just slide into this here. Now, everything looks neat, but as you can see, this is slack. The hole's too big, so when it drops on it, you'll have a nice neat finish, but when the fish takes it, it's literally free running. And then all you're gonna do is just slide this up to here, and that just fits in there, and you've got like this little notch on the end of here, and that is where your hook length goes over. Now, again, I'm gonna cover hook lengths for you. I tie my own hook lengths, but if you're a beginner, I'd always recommend buying pre-tied. It's so much easier, it's so simple and so easy to do. And again, another little added bonus, get your centre hook length box. I remember back in the day when I first started fishing, and I wouldn't have an hook length box. I don't know why, don't ask me why. And I'd just chuck my hook lengths back in my terminal tackle box and it'd just be a mess. Get your centre hook length box. Seriously, people, these things are brilliant. These come with like little labels, so I know exactly what they are. Even if you're using pre-tied hook lengths, just literally get them, you know, because you can't go wrong with a pre-tied hook length. They're so easy. And then again, I'm going to show you a lot of close up if I can. So get it over the notch like that, and then all you're going to do is push that inside it there, and then that's it. Your hook length is on there like that. Now, there is a few different types of hook length and a few different types of ways you can sort of attach your bait on. There's a bander, which I used to use a hell of a lot, and that is good for like your dumbbell wafters. And then there's a spike that's good for the new Sonia Bait spikings. You can still stick a bayonet or spike through a dumbbell wafter. You can easily do that. And again, I'm going to get into baits next, and after I've told you about rod length and what I think is better. But yeah, that is the setup, folks. It couldn't be any more simple than that. It is so easy to do. Anyone can do it. The trickiest thing, if you don't know your knots, is obviously doing the knot. But even still, it's not that difficult, honestly, folks. It really isn't hard to do. And like I said, just be wary that some manufacturers will have different speed, sort of different beads, quick change beads to this one. Right, so let's get in to what length rod I would recommend. You've got 12 foot, 11 foot, 10 foot, 9 foot, 8 foot, 7 foot. They are the most common ones I find these days. This is a 9 foot. And I would honestly recommend a 9 foot feeder rod to anyone. I honestly would. I just think, for me, they're a lot easier to control if you're a beginner. And even if you're more on the intermediate level, I would just recommend these, especially for commercial fisheries. For me, I find that most commercial fisheries, this will handle like an absolute champ. It's a different story if you're going on like big reservoirs and rivers and different stuff like that. But when you're getting into fishing, a 9 foot rod is perfect. Now, I will say this, get yourself a 7 foot as well, or an 8 foot, because they are even easier to control. Say if you've got, like I have today, reeds at the far bank, or you want to get tight to them reeds there, it's a lot easier to control and do your casting. On feeder rods as well, you do have quiver tips, and you will have different size ones. Some will come with like 3 quiver tips, some will come with 2, and they'll be like different ounces. The higher the number, the bigger quiver tip in the end, and really that is mainly for bite detection and things like, you know, say if you're fishing for carp, maybe go with like a 2 ounce, whereas if you're going for silvers, go with a 1 ounce. I've got 1.5 in the end of this, and I find it does me for both. Again, folks, just going into a bit of detail, something I did want to cover for you lot is you can get method feeders in all sorts of different sizes and everything. You can get 20 grams, 30 grams, all sorts of different ones. For commercials, I would literally just say, get yourself a 20 or a 30 gram. You know, 20 grams a good sort of in between one. That's what I would recommend. 20 is a good in the middle. And if you are casting on a 9 foot or 7 foot or 8 foot rod, generally speaking, the casting weight on these is, I believe on this one, is 30 gram maximum. So make sure you don't exceed that. It's not to say oh, bad's gonna happen, but I just wouldn't bother, folks, exceeding the 30 gram weight limit. So yeah, that is just something I thought was worth noting on the method feeder. There's different weights, sizes and things like that. So yeah, get yourself a 20 gram and you should be good at that. So like I said, this is the reason that I like a 9 foot rod. You can really just pump it out and get really close to edge of stuff. Now, that wasn't a bad cast. That is literally my first cast today. If I had say a 12 foot, 11 foot rod, as a beginner, you are definitely going to be worrying a little bit more casting it. Whereas with these, again, if I just come back here, I can just maneuver it nicely. I can bring it down and there you go. I got that one smack bang next to the reeds on the second cast. And you will gain a bit of confidence, you honestly will. You'll gain a bit of confidence and you'll get better with it. Now I'm just going to bring it back slow because I don't want to scare any potential fish for later. But yeah, that's the reason I love 9 foot rods. Also, something I did forget to mention is reel size. Now this one is a 3000. I would say if you've got an 8 foot or a 7 foot rod, use a 3000 reel. If you have a 9 foot, then you can up that to a 4000. All it is the reel's a bit bigger, it can hold a bit more line. Again, when you're on commercials, 3000s are plenty, they really are, folks. There's no need to go getting anything bigger. I could get away with having a 4000 on this 9 foot rod, but I don't know, I just fancied going for 3000. If you do have a 9 foot rod, you can go with 4000. But as I always say, go into the tackle shop, have a feel of the reel, have a little winder it, see what you think of it with the size, because that's sometimes the best way, because on videos I just can't explain, you know, how it feels compared to if you were to go to a shop and actually test them yourself. So yeah, that's what reel size I would go with the different type of rods. I'm not saying you can't go for a 10 and 11 foot feeder rod, but as a beginner I would honestly definitely recommend your 9, 7 and your 8. Right, so I'm going to get into the important thing, which is bait. What bait do you use on a method feeder? Literally, it is just an absolute mind-boggling like sort of place when it comes to bait. There is so much bait out there. If you're on the method feeder, I would always recommend, especially in the summer months and spring, going for something like a wafter. It doesn't matter which brand you go for, you can try different ones. I'm just gonna tell you what a brand I've used so many times, and I really do like their wafters. I think they're good, and that is Sonia baits. At the minute I'm using the Spicum ones. Like I mentioned before, you can just stick a bayonet straight through it. You don't even need a bander. You can just literally stick a bayonet straight through the wafter, and it's that simple. A little side note, if you do use a banded hook clem, you will need a bander tool. They're very cheap to buy, I think they're like £3–4, and you will need that. You can do it by hand, but I've always struggled. For some reason I just can't do it. I find it very difficult. so I do find it much easier to just use a bander. But if you have something like this, or let's say you're using a bayonet, then you don't need to, or you just stick it straight through and it's that simple. Again, natural baits on method feeders is always a good thing to do. You could try dead reds, you could try normal red maggots, you could even try sweet corn. There's so many different baits that you can use. You can use pellets. There's no real standout, this is the best and this will catch you the most fish. Sometimes if the fishing's tough and you know you're in for a tough day, I would always opt for natural baits. Things like pellets, dead reds, live maggots, sweet corn, even worms. You could even put worms on a method feeder. You know, just experiment. That is the thing about method feeder fishing. With bait, it's just an absolute endless road to what you can use, and I would just say use what you're most confident in. Start off with wafters, then maybe go with sweet corn, because sweet corn's always a good one. Me personally, I don't fish it much. I need to try it more in my fishing, but for me, wafters are a great way, and there is so many different flavours and scents. Again, I'd be stood here all day telling you what different scents and flavours, so I just say buy what you think looks good, give it a try, and if it works well, then it works well. One little tip I will say, I'm not telling you to go out there and spend a ridiculous amount of money. Every time you go to the tackle shop, just buy yourself a new tub of wafters, what's a different scent and colour to the others, because I've had it before where I've been on a certain colour and then I've switched to another one and I don't know why, it just seems to work. It's strange and I don't understand why that is, but yeah, it's just one of them things. With your method feeder, you need something to put inside the method feeder or put inside the mould, and then it moulds around your method. Micro pellets are my favourite thing to go with. I've got some now, so I'll show you which ones I use. Now, I've reviewed these before, and these are the Mainline Essential Cell 2mm pellets. These are absolutely brilliant, folks. I have used these a hell of a lot in my fishing. I'm not sponsored to say this, I'm not getting paid to say this. These are £5.29 a bag. You do get a good amount in. I've done a review on it, so if you check way back in my videos, I did a little review on these. The reason I like them so much, and especially again if you're a beginner, they're very easy to prepare. You can also use things like ground bait as well. There's a lot of people out there what use ground bait, and again, Mainline do ground bait. I've not actually tried their ground bait, it's something I'm gonna have to try. So then, I hope this video has helped you, and I hope this episode has covered a lot more about method feeder fishing, because like I say, fishing can be a complex thing, but it doesn't need to be, and that is why I am doing this little series to cover everything. I'm also going to be doing other series on how to pole fish and how to do other types of methods and stuff like that. So if this did help you, post in the comments down below, because I really would like to know, and at the end of the day, that's the reason I do these videos, to help you lot and also to entertain you lot. Get subscribed to my YouTube channel as well. It's free of charge and it doesn't cost you a penny, and that way then it just keeps you updated whenever I upload new videos like this one, helping you how to do all sorts of different methods of fishing, and it's just a way to support me, and I really do appreciate it. Hit the bell as well so you're notified whenever I do upload more videos like this one. Episode 2 will be coming next week, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll be covering a lot more different things about this wonderful method that can absolutely catch you loads and loads of fish. So if it did help you, leave a like on it, share this video around with anyone that you know is getting into method feeder fishing, or maybe someone's already done it but they've had a little break and maybe they're coming back to it and they just need to refresh the memory. Share this video with them and hopefully it will help them out. And thank you very much for watching this episode of getting into method feeder fishing and how to fish it. And also, if you are fishing the method feeder, have a good one.